Debbie Marcoux is licensed by the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act, NMLS ID 237926. Also licensed in Arizona 0941504, Florida L076508, Georgia 69178, Idaho MLO 208023796, Illinois 031.0058339, Missouri, North Carolina I210940, Nevada 57237, Oregon, Tennessee 184373, Texas, Washington MLO 237926.
She's the mortgage mom. She can get things done when you're in need and don't know where to go. Pick up the phone and call mom.
All right, so welcome back to Mortgage Mom Radio. I am Debbie Marcoux. I am the Mortgage Mom, and it looks like we have got YouTube fixed. So we are streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram as usual. So I am so sorry, you guys, for the delay and confusion, and you guys jumped in and couldn't watch. And so we got it fixed, and here we are. And so welcome to Mortgage Mom Radio. I'm Debbie Marcoux, and today we are talking about what does a realtor do for you, and how much do they get paid? Are they worth it? There is so much that is going on in the media right now that is talking about how you don't need a real estate agent. You can do it on your own. They get paid so much money to do nothing, basically, is what I'm hearing. And it just angers me. And then my absolute favorite is that, you could just call an attorney and have them write the contract for you. And so why pay a real estate agent moving forward? So today, just like last week, I have got Heather Kilpatrick on with us. Heather is a licensed real estate agent, a licensed loan officer, and she also carries her law degree, with her major being in real estate law. So again, Heather, thank you so much for coming to the show. I think that you are an invaluable asset when it comes to what is going on right now in the media, and I think personally what I would say is a bum rap that the real estate agents are getting. So I do want to talk about this. I want to have this conversation, and I appreciate that you are here. You are definitely an invaluable part of my team. So welcome to the show. Yes, you're welcome. Last week's show was fabulous. I loved it. So I'm looking forward to a great show again today. So I want to start with, what exactly does a real estate agent do? And I have a feeling that this is going to take a good amount of time. Like, we probably might make it through at least the 30 minutes that needs to go to Go Country, and we will probably continue on from there. So again, my Go Country listeners, if you guys missed the show, you know that it's cut off and we weren't done. Make sure that you head on over to my YouTube channel and pull up my folder or my playlist that says live. You can see the most recent live that we just did. We record every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And then we send it to the radio, the sound, for you guys to hear on Saturday. So if you do want to continue or finish the show that way. Now, I have a better idea for you, is to catch the show live, watch us do it live in studio, and ask your questions, put them into the feed, and get interactive with us. So in order to do that, you're going to text the word live, LIVE, to 844-935-3634. That's 844 We Lend for You. WELEND and the number 4. That is also the exact same telephone number that you are going to call us at if you would like to get your consultation to start getting yourself pre-approved, or homeowners, if you guys own your home. Maybe this is a great show for you because you've been thinking about selling, but you're not sure if you should do it as a for sale by owner. So you can also call our office as well if you need to get yourself pre-approved to purchase your next property. So Heather, I had to go through my spew. I'm sorry. So Heather, what I want you to do is I'm going to pretend to be the person that is calling you. I think that that is the best way for us to start the show. And so I'm going to call you and I'm going to say, hey, this buddy that I work with just bought a house and you are his real estate agent. He bought a home for $800,000. I saw another one come to market on his exact same street. We work together. We make the same money. We're in the same position. And so I'd love it if he recommended you. I asked him who he used and he said you were great. And I was hoping that you could run me over there and show me that property. I think I'd like to write an offer. Hold on. I just want somebody to say that they can hear you. So while we are waiting for them to say that they could hear you, then I'm going to say hi to my dad who's jumped on. Chief Manny says we're back. Natalie says, impressive, Heather. You're just touching on all the hot spots today. My dad says, I can't hear Heather. Natalie says, no, we can't hear Heather. And Lori says, can't hear you. And then my dad says, got her now. Okay, so we're going to start you. We're going to rewind you back. I work with my buddy, and I make the same money. I work in the same position. He just bought a home for $800,000. One came up on his street available. I'd love it if you could take me out there. You come highly recommended.
Yeah. So my first question to you is, hey, Debbie, have you talked with a lender? And if your answer is yes, and, yes, I'm working with somebody, I was referred, I have a friend, whatever, I'm going to probably ask for their name and their phone number, and then just give them a quick call to make sure this is a property that you qualify for. If you haven't spoken with a lender, then I'm going to hook you up with my good friend, Deb. She's Mortgage Mom Radio. She's amazing. So going to have you call them, find out, do you actually qualify for this home? Simply because you work in the same line of industry and you make exactly the same money doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to qualify for the same home as your friend did. So a lot of things can vary in there, like credit scores, debts, things like that. So we always want to make sure that before we take you out, that we should get you, approved for that home. And there's two reasons for that. The first reason is as a buyer, I don't want to show you something that you're not going to qualify for. So for example, if this home you said was $800,000, maybe you have a little bit more debt, maybe the credit score is a little lower, something's gone on, and you're qualified for $700,000. Well, then I'm taking you out and I'm showing you a home that you don't qualify for. One, it gets your hopes up, oh, this is beautiful, this is what I want. Two, it kind of wastes your time unless you are like me and love to go look at houses. So always want to make sure. The other option is that maybe you qualify for more. Maybe your friend had more debts than you did, or credit score, and maybe this is not really the home that you want. You want something bigger, better. Then we know there as well. Sometimes it tells us if there's credit issues, the lender will let us know. Maybe there's some things we need to fix before we get you in the car and show you homes. So there's a bunch of different reasons that the very first step should be talking to your lender and figuring out what you qualify for and what you need when you are making an offer.
So to dumb it down, right? You're getting that phone call and you're saying, hey, I'd love to drive you out there and show you that property, but we need to make sure that you're pre-approved, because just because you make the same money as your buddy, everybody is different. Your credit could be different. Your monthly debts could be different. You could have a car payment that he doesn't have. So number one, let's get you pre-approved with a lender. You're going to go ahead and you're going to call my girl, Debbie. So then number two, before he's even called me, I usually get a phone call from a real estate agent. So now number two phone call, right? What's the next step?
My call is to you and say, hey, Debbie, I've got this client. I'm going to refer to you. Here's what he's looking at. Here's how he came to me, and give you a little bit of information that I got from him on the phone while talking with him. And hopefully I'm asking him, what do you do? How long you been there? Because I'm a lender, I kind of know the trigger words to ask, so that when I call you, I can say, hey, Deb, he's been with ABC company. He's been there for 2 years. He makes this amount. He's salary. He's W-2, and give you as much information as you need so that you and I can kind of talk about, is this something that's realistic for this person? And usually with our conversation we can get that done.
Yeah. So, and that's the one thing that I want to tell you guys. The first thing that I want you to start thinking about, right, is that if you were working with an attorney, let's just pretend that a real estate agent was an attorney. You've made a phone call to that real estate agent, probably spent about an hour on the phone with them, because number one, not only are you guys going to have the conversation about what are your wants, needs, and desires, how many bedrooms do you need, what school district do you need to be in, right? Because they're trying to build around what your needs are to know that they are showing you the right properties. Now, in this situation, it is the easiest of all situations. There's a house on the street that the guy would love to go see. Hopefully he's already identified the property, but chances are he goes in, he walks into that house, and maybe it's not what he wants. You still need to get then back out on the street and start seeing things. So number one, they've consulted with you on the phone. What would an attorney charge you? Cha-ching. Yeah. Number two, she's now spent time, hung up the phone with you and called the lender, because she's basically pre-qualified you on the phone to give the lender the information that they need. So I'm getting a call from the realtor and they're saying they've got $30,000 available. They'd like to buy at $800,000. They think that they've got really good credit. So really these real estate agents, They aren't a lender. They don't necessarily know the exact in and outs that a lender would, but they have been doing this for a long time if they are a good real estate agent, and they do have a good thumb on the important questions to ask. Do you have the money? Okay, do you have the reserves? They're asking these really important questions, and then now they're making phone call number 2. So again, if you were an attorney, cha-ching, phone number, they're going to start putting on it, 15-minute increments,
Yeah.
Heather? What
Yeah,
they're going to start charging you,
15 and 20-minute increments, per hour. And you're looking easily in California, 350, 450, 500, sometimes more.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and so let's just play devil's advocate here, and let's say,
Sure.
okay, yeah, but if I'm a buyer and I've identified the property that I want, and I already went to a lender because the mortgage mom told me I needed to get pre-approved. That was step number 1 before I call a real estate agent. So I've already been pre-approved. I already know which property I want. I don't need a real estate agent to take me out and show me properties. Like, why shouldn't I just go straight to the seller and, negotiate with the seller? So we're not going to answer that question right now because the majority of buyers do not already have a property identified, the majority. So we're going to keep going through those steps. Then we're going to come back to that person that identified, got pre-approved, and wants to go straight to the seller to try to save maybe on the purchase price, not have to pay commissions, right?
Right.
Because that's kind of what this is all about. But we're going to keep that one off because we are going to talk about it. But let's go into step number 2. So now I've taken the time. I have completely pre-approved the guy. He's ready to go. And I say, Heather, he's totally good. He can qualify for the $800,000. Go show him that property. Okay. So now let's talk about what your next step is. What are the things that you are doing to now go and show him this home?
So first I'm going to set up a showing. So whether it's vacant or whether there's a homeowner, is it an appointment? What is it that's going on with that homeowner, so that I can get in and show them the house. So we're going to make an appointment. We're going to go over there and we're going to show them the home. We're going to take them on the tour of the home. I'm going to talk with them about what's going on in the neighborhood, maybe the pluses, the minuses, if they don't know about the neighborhood. I'm also going to have prepared with me comparables in the neighborhood. So what's available that compares to it, what's in escrow, what's sold, is this a good price? Are these upgrades nice? Does it back on Main Street? Is the location desirable? All the different things. We're going to spend, I would say, at least a half an hour in that house, kind of going over all of, the things that are going on there.
But how much time did you actually have to devote to pull the comps, pull the other properties in the neighborhood that are available, pull the most recent closed listings so that they do know that if they make an offer, what the home is worth, talking to the other real estate agent about, these are my buyers, they are pre-approved, but guess what? They don't have enough money. They have $30,000 and they're buying an $800,000 property, right? So is that a doable scenario? 100%. 100%. But is it doable for the client to pay all of their own closing costs and cover your buyer's agent commission as the new rules are going to come to play in July? Absolutely not. So you're now also having a conversation with the listing agent, right? You're the selling agent with the listing agent. You're going to find out if that's something that the seller would entertain, closing cost credit.
Correct.
Commissions, buyer's commission, right?
Correct.
Buyer's agent commission. You're also going to find out other things, right? So what about escrow periods, and what does the seller need? And is the seller moving and they need to go and find another property? So talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah, so there's a lot of upfront work that's done before we even get to the house to show them the house. So number one, my first call to the agent say, hi, this is Heather. I'm calling on your property on, Smith Street. Is it still available? Because first of all, I can't show a house that's already in escrow. A lot of sellers don't want to show it, but why would I waste the buyer's time to show them a house that's already in escrow? Then from there, I'm going to tell them, hey, my buyers are renting. Their lease is up in 2 weeks. They really need to find a place to go. Can your seller do a quick close? No, they can't. Okay, this might be a problem then, or the seller needs a 45-day close. So we're already kind of hashing out a little bit what's going on with the property. What is the seller's situation? Do they need to move fast? Do they need to move slow? Are they willing now the new rules. Are they willing to, help a buyer out with commissions? Like you were mentioning, the client has this much money to work with, the buyer has this much money to work with. That's perfect for their closing costs, their down payment. They are going to come up short on the commissions. They weren't anticipating that. Is the seller working with buyer's agents? Are they willing, to negotiate some commissions in that? Are they, maybe the buyer needs some closing costs paid? Is the seller willing to pay closing costs? Are they willing to pay both? Does the seller need a rent back? Are they, just depending on what the situation is in every situation, because there's so many different variables, I would say not a one is the same. So it really, really just depends. Does the seller have to find a home of choice? Have they been looking? Are they in escrow? Have they identified one? No, they haven't. Okay, how many days do you need to find one? Are they staying in state? Are they moving out? There's so many different things going on that we're on the phone. And sometimes I don't get them on the first time. So then I got to text message them. Then they call me and now I'm on the phone and they're like, that's a great question. Let me call you back. So I would venture to say there's easily at least an hour worth of phone calls going back and forth, probably 20-30 minutes pulling up the comparables. So realistically, between the lender making all the phone calls to show one home, just one, you're invested at least 2 hours into the client.
Right, at least. Okay, so I do want to say that let's see. So Heidi says, hi ladies. So Heidi is on with us. Chief Manny says, what's the number to call you again? So thanks for the reminder, Manny. I appreciate that. So if you guys would like to call us and you'd like to talk with either me or Heather, or anybody that is on my team, Heidi, who jumps on and says, hi ladies. So if you'd like to talk with any of us, we are here to help you. We would love to give you that consultation. It is 844-935-3634. That's 844 We Lend for You. WELEND and the number 4. So that's how you call our office. That's how you opt yourself in to get the link once a week to join. So that is, you're going to text LIVE, LIVE. Natalie did jump in and says, a lot of people, especially first-time home buyers, do not know what that means. So do you think you guys can explain, what does it mean when a home is already in escrow?
Great question.
Yes. So let's go ahead and have you explain that.
Okay, so there's a couple different types of what we call statuses in real estate. The first one is what we call the first one is a new one. It's called coming soon. And coming soon properties generally right now are not seen on Zillow. They're not seen on Redfin. They're only seen in the MLS. So if you're a buyer who's out there waiting for that house to pop up on Zillow and email you, you will not get this property, at least with our local boards. It's held back. And coming soon basically means that at some point within the next 30 days, this property is going to come on the market, give or take things that come up with the seller. Maybe the seller is getting it prepared. Maybe they're out of state or something. Maybe there's a holiday, whatever. But it tells us as agents, hey, if you have clients looking, we know you're going to go show them the other ones, but just know this property is coming on the market. So that's coming soon. Active homes are the next status, and active you will generally see on the Zillows, the Redfins, things like that. If you are on a drip system with your MLS agent or with your agent on the MLS, they will automatically come emailed to you. Active basically means that the property is available. Generally, there aren't any offers on there. You always have to call and double check because things change every minute in this business. So active homes are what you're going to go see. What Natalie was asking about are the next two. When a property goes into escrow, it means that it has an accepted offer on the property. So a buyer came in, they wrote an offer, they negotiated their offer, seller accepted, buyer accepted any changes, and now they have went to the escrow company. If you're in a title state, the title company or a lawyer, and they have opened escrow and began the process of actually buying the property. Okay, so they have an accepted offer. When that happens here locally in Los Angeles and California, we have what's called under contract and pending. Usually when the contract's just accepted, we'll put it as under contract, which means, hey, if you have a serious buyer, call me because my client might let you show it to them as a backup offer. So that's how you know the property just went into escrow. Pending properties are properties that have basically had their inspections contingencies removed, their appraisal contingencies removed, their loan contingencies removed, and everything's moving forward smoothly. And that seller and listing agent feel confident that that buyer is not going to cancel. So we're pending, we're solid, we're a good escrow. The next status is once you close escrow or record, then it'll be a closed status, which means this transaction's completed, the escrow's closed, and it's no longer available for anything. Right. So in between there is a hold, and which basically means for some reason the property is being held off the market. You won't see it active on Zillow or Redfin. Maybe they're out of town or something. So if you see a property that comes up and then all of a sudden the next day it's gone, it could be an escrow, or maybe it's on hold.
Yep. And so it was for somebody that is actually like actively looking, wanting to schedule appointments to go see homes. They're looking for homes that are active.
Correct.
Obviously, if you saw one that says that it is contingent, pending, or in escrow, depending on the status that's being used by the particular MLS. And it seems even kind of like area wise, that can change the way the terms that they used. For example, there's attorney states like we've talked about before, and there are title states like we have talked about before. So theirs may not say in escrow, theirs may say contingent, or theirs may say pending. So it really just depends on where you are located. But those are the homes that if you go look at them, they're already under contract. So you wouldn't necessarily be choosing to go see that. It's kind of a waste of time unless it was to fall out. So if you saw it and it was just, this is exactly what I want, exactly, then you might want to still go ahead and see if you could possibly take a look at the home to write a backup offer like Heather said. So Natalie, great question. And again, I want to invite everybody that is watching and listening, if you have questions about anything, put them into the feed, put them into the chat. Happy to answer those questions for you and make sure that we touch on your question, make sure that you get the answers that you're looking for. So please, this is interactive. You are more than welcome to, be part of the show. So thank you very much, Natalie. Appreciate that. It looks like Janice has joined us. So Janice, thank you so much. She said, can't hear Heather, but she must have joined just a little bit later than everybody else. And then she said, okay, good. So thank you, Janice. Appreciate that. Okay, so we have a minimum of 2 hours into this person, and they haven't even met you yet at the property to go see it. So we're going to assume that you have scheduled the appointment. You've done all of the work that goes into going and showing a home to somebody that they would like to see. And so now I want to talk a little bit about, expenses, right? Because one of the things that that we're hearing right now is real estate agents make too much money. Real estate, you don't need the real estate agent, right? We talked about that at the beginning. So let's talk about number one, some of the expenses that you've incurred and you haven't even walked through the door with the client yet.
Okay, so I'm going to back up for a second because I want people to understand one thing that's really important to me that they understand. Number one is that realtors are considered right now independent contractors, which means we are not W-2 employees. We are a 1099 employee. So everything that we do is an expense out of our pocket. So if we haven't closed a deal in 2 or 3 months, we've had no income for 2 or 3 months. So I just kind of want to make sure that everybody understands that although commissions might be high to what they see, you got to keep that in mind, is that we are independent. We are 1099. On top of that, and this is my favorite, right? So we're talking about making an appointment to go see that home. So realtors work full-time, pretty much 24/7, 365. So as a realtor, I work Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 with my title, my escrow, my lenders, all my people that have standard, 9 to 5 jobs, okay, inspectors, things. My clients mostly work during the day, so I'm usually making these appointments on weekends or at night. So I'm taking that time away from my family to be with you guys, which I absolutely love doing. I love this business, and that's why I do it. But I want to make sure that everybody understands that my job is not 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. My job can be 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday because that's when my client gets off work and can sign, documents. So having said that, just in order to show you a home, I have to pay. I have my local dues. So out here, there's like Southland Regional, there's a bunch of different boards. A lot of them are reciprocating boards. We have annual dues. If they are not reciprocating, there are some up north that are not, then, and you want to show in that area, then you have to be a member of that board too. So you can incur dues from 3, 4, 5, 6 different boards, depending on, where you want to be. Board dues are annual. In order to pay your local board dues, you have to pay your California Association of Realtors dues and your National Association of Realtors dues. On top of that, you also have to pay your MLS dues. That gives me access to the system to see which properties are in there. So that's where we get all of our information from. That's where Zillow gets their information from. That's where Redfin gets their information from. So if we are not members of a board, then your property, that you're looking for is just not going to be there. We have to pay monthly for our super keys to get in to show you, which requires, I shouldn't say requires, but I would say 95, if not more, % of us use our cell phones. So I have to have my cell phone on there to gain access to the property. Obviously to call you, I have to have my car to get to the property to show you. I have to pay my car insurance. And as a realtor, I have to have more insurance because, there's the chance COVID kind of changes a little bit, but, I put you in my car and we go house to house to house, and we still do that nowadays. So I have to have a higher insurance coverage on my car, plus the license registration on my car, insurance, gas, all of that. It starts adding up very quickly before I even, put you in the car to see the house or even meet you, at the house. So there are definitely a lot of fees on top of, the time spent for sure.
Which is why there are very, very few part-time real estate agents, because when you start to invest, and I understand that you're only a small portion of that, right? She's talking about annual dues here, annual dues there, annual dues there. She needs a computer. She doesn't work for an employer that hands her a computer. She needs to have a cell phone. She doesn't work for a company that gives her a cell phone as an employee. So she needs to have a cell phone that she is utilizing as the actual key to open up the lock boxes to show you the properties. She has to have that higher insurance on her car just so that she is, if you were to get in an accident while she's driving you around town, she's covered, right? So that's why there are not a lot of part-time real estate agents, because that starts to add up very, very, very quickly. Now, not to mention that before she's brought you out and showed you a home, now with new rules that are coming out, you're more than likely going to be signing a buyer broker agreement. So this is something that's going to change a bit from anything that we've even discussed. And we haven't even seen the inside of the property yet, but you will either be meeting with the real estate agent in person, again, more time that they're taking with you. You will be signing a contract, whether it is DocuSign or in person, to agree that you are going to have them represent you as the buyer, and understanding what the commission amount is that they will be charging either you or a seller for. So there is a lot that is taking place. You can't get that contract unless you are signed up. So Heather, you do have to have some sort of a subscription somewhere to have access to the documents, to do a buyer broker agreement, write a purchase agreement, transfer disclosures, listing agreements, right? I mean, you must, we used to, when I was a real estate agent, we drove to the board and we walked in and we paid for a bulk, a bulk package of what, like 25
quadruplicate
or something back then. It's not like that now. So I'm assuming that there's some sort of subscription that you've got going on.
Yeah. So basically, part of the National Association of Realtors dues, and the California Association of Realtors is they do provide forms. And part of the reason that they provide forms is that, in the state of California, there's CAR legal attorneys, so California Association of Realtors legal attorneys, and they draft forms to help protect not only us as realtors, but buyers and sellers. So, through our dues, we pay for those legal those legal eagles per se, to draw up the contracts, to keep everything very uniform, so that, when we do write an offer and we are doing our files and uploading the hundreds of pages, that it's all real uniform and that everybody, their I's and T's are dotted. So part of our dues goes towards that. But then obviously, we're paying for DocuSign, which can, be quite expensive per year depending on how many forms you send out. And even if you send them out through the board's system, it still goes through DocuSign, so you need to be signed up with that. Some people use other forms. It really just depends. But yeah, just to even talk with you, go over the buyer broker agreement, discuss the different things with you, and then send that form out. I'm already, paying money out of my pocket, just to get you set up to where we can go show you that property. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we've done a pretty good job of just stepping. We're just barely going to open up the threshold and walk through the home, right?
Yeah.
So now you're meeting these clients in person. We're walking through the house, and we will get back to the guy that I promised, who identified the home, was pre-approved in advance, totally loves the house, and is ready to make an offer, and doesn't need any of the rest of what is happening. But in most situations, that is not an ideal situation. I mean, that it's an ideal situation, but it is not one that is a typical situation. So now I want to talk about walk through the property, and they don't like it.
Very, very, very common. The biggest thing, and you and I both said this, is that photos lie. So, whether you're on a dating app or a real estate app, you see this house on Zillow and you're like, yeah, I'm going to swipe right or left, whichever one it is that you do. And you love this house. And I can't tell you how many times I've got a client in the house and like, the photos don't look like this. Yeah. They really don't. You fall in love with this home that looks amazing, but then when you get in there, you're noticing all of the things that the camera covered. Maybe it's the location, maybe the yard looks smaller than it was, maybe one bedroom's an 8x8 and it's really an office and not a kid's room. Whatever it is, maybe that color blue was different on your computer than, or a flyer photo or something. So you get in there and you completely hate it. Okay, no problem. I'm going to ask you, I'm still going to spend time in there with you because I want to know, what don't you like? It's not my home. You don't hurt my feelings, even if it was. But what don't you like, so that when I'm looking for you next time, I don't show you the same things that you don't like. So what do you like about this home? What don't you like about this home? And really, the first couple of homes that we see, I'm going to take that time to make those notes of what is it that you do and don't. But now it's back to the drawing board. So you don't like that home. So now I'm going to go back to my office, take with me the notes of this is what they like, this is what they don't like, plug those into the MLS. Sometimes you can spend hours looking. And even though there's not a lot of inventory, you pull up each and every single listing, you're looking at the photos. I may even go out and preview those properties so that I'm not showing them something and wasting their time, because my client's time is valuable. And that's why I'm going out there beforehand to make sure the location, whatever. Also, I'm going to go through, has there been any properties that have expired recently, which means they were on the market and their listing time expired and now maybe they still want to sell. I'm going to contact them. Are there any that were withdrawn from the market, which means that for whatever reason, the seller took the property off the market. It didn't expire, but it's not there anymore. Call up that listing agent. Hey, Sue, why'd your clients take it off? Are they still interested? I've got these clients. I think it's perfect for them. Can I go look at it? Can I preview it? The hold properties. It is a very, tedious and detailed, thing that we do, process that we go through to find you that home. It's not just, oh, here's the MLS, 2 properties came up, let's go. I'm literally looking for more than those 2, because I want to be able to show you everything that's out there and then say, okay, we've gone through everything. What else do we need to do? And then from there, it goes to a different direction. But yeah, it's very time consuming.
And I would say, now I didn't look up any statistics, so I'm not going to throw this down as a number that is absolutely 100%. However, I have a very good idea because I do a lot of pre-approvals, and then my agents are then out looking for homes for the clients. And there are many, many times that clients who do get pre-approved, who have gone out and looked numerous times at properties, just cannot ever end up executing on one and getting it closed. But on majority, I would say on average, when somebody is really excited, ready to buy, gets pre-approved, it usually, in my experience, takes about a month or 2. Which is why I always tell people, if you're trying to move within a certain amount of time, you need to get started at least 2 to 3 months before you'd like that end date to happen, right?
Yeah.
But it usually seems like it takes a good 2 to 3 months before we get an accepted contract. We're opening up escrow and we're ready to move forward. And so everything that we talked about just to walk through the front door of a home that you identified, that you said, hey, I saw this one and I would like to see it. They're doing that over and over and over again, and sometimes for a good couple of months. Sometimes you've written 5, 6 offers, but for whatever reason, the offer did not get accepted. There were multiple offers. Somebody came in with a stronger offer, higher, bigger down payment. Seller, decided that they just didn't want to sell because they couldn't find a home of choice. So they back out of the deal. And I want everybody to understand that all of that work, which we haven't even tipped the iceberg yet, as far as what happens once you're in contract, right?
Right.
This is just getting you a property. Yep. Everything that has taken place continues to take place over and over again. And if you do not close on a transaction, a real estate agent does not get paid, period. Correct. They could have worked for you for a year, 2 years, which Heather, you explained in last week's show that you had a client that worked with you for 2 years and things just never panned out right. They could work with you for 6 months. They could work with you for 3 months. You could see, 95 properties over the course of 2 months, and it never works out. Not for lack of trying, not for lack of writing contracts, not for lack of being pre-approved, not for lack of anything. It just didn't work out. Guess what? Real estate agent doesn't make a dime, not a dime, right? So the one thing to keep in mind is, oh, hey, I don't need a real estate agent. You don't. You could totally do it yourself. But some of the things that Heather is bringing to light that I think you guys need to understand what the benefit of a real estate agent is, hey, I don't see anything on the market for you right now that you're looking for. I've put in all of your parameters, but guess what? I'm a salesperson. It's my job to find you a property. I'm going to look through expired listings that didn't sell, and I'm going to call those real estate agents and see if the sellers might still entertain. I'm going to call the ones that are on hold, those listing agents, and see if their seller would still let us through. I'm going to go door knock and drop flyers at properties in the neighborhood that you've identified is the one that you want. Again, spending time on you for you, sometimes spending money on flyers for you, right? So I just want to try to drive home the importance of a real estate agent and what they are out there doing for you. And sometimes you, buyer, you don't even know that they just door knocked an entire 5 hours on a Wednesday night in the neighborhood where you want to live, hoping that they could come across somebody that opens up the door and says, you know what, actually, yeah, we've been thinking about selling. Do you think I could get my buyers in here to look at it? Right? They're sales people. Does the car sales guy get paid a commission? Yes, he does. They are working for you and do not get paid until you get what you want. So I do want to make sure that you guys all understand there is a lot of money that goes into being your real estate agent. And at the end of the day, when they finally get paid out that commission, if you take all of the time from start to finish, the very first phone call to the very first meeting, to the physical inspection, to the closing date, if you take all that time and the actual amount of hours that would be billed to you as an attorney would bill you, okay? All of the hours that were spent, that commission that they are earning is like literally, and I should probably get rid of the word like. I need to learn how to talk without the word like. But it is literally not much more than minimum wage. Take all those hours and then divide that money, right? And sometimes that might be the only sale that month. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 sales. But you know what? Kudos to that realtor that can do 3, 4, 5 transactions in a month, because having one set of clients is a lot of work. Having 2, 3, 4 sets of clients is even more work. And they're balancing it all, and they're getting it all done, and they're getting it done professionally. And you're not worrying about contracts, and you're not worrying about, being taken advantage of, and you have the representation that you need, and you don't have to worry about paying a bill even though you didn't end up closing, right?
Mhm.
So I do want to drive all of that home. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to give me some hate mail on, what I'm saying, and they don't like
Always.
it. But this is reality. And I've been in this industry for over 30 years, and I started in the real estate agent's shoes, and I chose to move over to the dark side of lending. And it was because I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go door knock. I didn't want for sellers. And we can talk about sellers too, but I didn't want to sit open houses. I didn't want to spend my weekend, my evening, my Saturday, my Sunday, my evenings when my kids are playing baseball, or my kids are playing lacrosse, or my kids have some sort of something happening, and I'm missing it because I'm working around you and your schedule and when you're off work, and I'm losing that valuable time with my family to help your family. So,
Even I was gonna say, even on top of that, like, I remember being in Hawaii years ago and literally waking up early and working for 6 hours, so that because California was 3 hours ahead. So here I am on my vacation, which people who are W-2 get 2 or 3, weeks a year, or sometimes more. You don't get that as an agent. You can't go to Hawaii for a week without having somebody, help you with your business here. You're still doing contracts. You're still doing this. So not only am I doing nights and weekends, I'm on vacation answering my phones. I am got my computer with me. There's times I've been in the car on the computer with the travel file going so that I'm working. And we were talking about, the people that have 2 and 3 clients and 4 clients. There's people who run offices that have buyer's agents and transaction coordinators. And so now they're paying them salaries. Sometimes they'll make a commission, but now you're talking about somebody who's employing others. And that is a big thing when you employ somebody else, is you really have to worry about, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to help them feed their kids this month? So it's a normal job where you're an independent contractor, where you run a business, and you need to make sure, a hairdresser, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever. But if that money doesn't come in that month, you're pulling from your own funds, so that when you do close, you have to replenish and still use your funds. So it's a very interesting business as far as money goes. But I think a lot of people don't understand. We were just saying, when you're a realtor part-time, and you and I kind of chuckled, it's like, it doesn't work, because everything for me to make a call to you and say, hey, Debbie, this brand new property came up. Let's go look at it today at 5. You available? Yep, I'm ready. For me to call you and say, Deb, let's go look at this property at 5 o'clock. I've already spent several hours on the phone with people, whatever, making sure that you can look at that property at 5 o'clock and know that it's something that you can write an offer on and hopefully have a chance on.
Right. Absolutely. So, hey, again, I'm going to do Manny's tip of the day is, hey, Mom, could you give everybody your phone number? So if you guys would like to call us, you like what you're hearing, you'd like to talk with me or anybody on the team, you can reach our office at 844-935-3634. That's 844 We Lend for You. WELEND and the number 4. Remember that I am live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. on YouTube. We had a little bit of a hiccup today, but nothing that we couldn't fix and get right back on again. If you'd like to get the text message with the link to join each week and know what we are talking about that week, so what is our topic that day? Maybe one topic doesn't really interest you, but another one does. Opt yourself in. Text the exact same telephone number, the word LIVE, LIVE, to 844-935-3634. That's 844 We Lend for You. WELEND and the number 4. Okay, so thank you, Manny, for the tip. He's like waving at me. Hey, hurry up. Okay, so I do want to, I hope that we're driving home the idea of today's show. However, let's get back to we let's just pretend, okay, we've spent
Mhm.
all of the time and energy. We didn't like the first house. We went out a couple weeks in a row, and we finally found a home that we really like. Okay, and so now we're writing the contract, and we're going to pretend that the very first contract that somebody writes gets accepted.
Okay.
Okay, which is not usually a thing that happens. I mean,
No,
it can, it absolutely can. It's just that in a busy market and in a competitive market, sometimes you could have the very best real estate agent in the entire world, and your offer is not the one that gets accepted. But we're going to pretend everything worked out exactly key. And this is going to tie back in my first guy who identified the property, got himself pre-approved like he should have, and he's wondering why he shouldn't just go straight to the seller and try to negotiate something directly with the seller. Why do I need a real estate agent? Why should I have to pay for one? Or why shouldn't I get the discount on the house from the seller because I'm not bringing a real estate agent to the table that needs to be paid? So I do want you to talk about, now you've written the contract, you've gone through all of the negotiations. Everybody has a good understanding that you're going to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So you've gone through all of the negotiations, right? Now, the guy that wants to buy it himself without the real estate agent has to write his own contract, has to get it submitted. There is still the seller, most likely, unless he had a for sale sign in his front yard as for sale by owner, but most likely has a listing agent. So he would still be calling the listing agent to write the contract if he was trying to avoid the cost of another agent being in the mix. But there's going to be the normal borrower that's going to have the negotiation phase, that they're going to have their own real estate agent who is going to help negotiate. So remember, if you're that buyer with no realtor, you're going directly to the seller's realtor. You don't necessarily know if you're getting the best deal or if you're negotiating as good as what you could have, because you're basically being represented by somebody who is representing the seller and signed a contract with that seller and signed it first, which means that is who they have their obligation to. That's who they have their obligation to. You are second place. You're second best. Okay. But let's just pretend you've gone through all the negotiations. Everybody comes to terms, and now escrow's opening. So I want you to give a rundown of what happens next. And this is on the real estate agent side. You guys have all heard me talk about what lenders do, but now we're going to talk about what does the realtor do. Okay. So give it to us, Heather.
Okay, so this comes back to the Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I mean, Debbie works all the hours, but most escrow, 5 o'clock, they're closed. Title, 5 o'clock, they're closed, right? There's some out there that don't, but so offer gets accepted. And so immediately I am going to call the lender and let them know, hey, Debbie, their offer got accepted. Woohoo, great, we're in escrow. I got to get over the contract, the addendums, any counter offers, all over to Debbie. Then I got to call escrow and I got to introduce myself to them, get that going, get them all of the documentation. I got to coordinate with them and the buyer on how to get their deposit in. Are we wiring it? Are they bringing a check? Because there's a time frame on there of how much time they have to get going. And I should stop and back up for a second. So as part of the contract, we have contingency timeframes, everything from getting their initial deposit into it, doing their appraisal, doing their home inspections and any other inspections they want, their loan contingencies. So all these different inspection contingencies. So I need to set up an email that has everybody's information on there, all these contingency timeframes. I need to get it off to everybody once I figure out who's what, who's where, coordinate with the buyer to get their deposit into escrow. So literally that first day and a half is kind of chaotic, because, we got to get the escrow opened, get an escrow number, call the buyer, say, here's your escrow officer, here's your escrow number, here's this and that. You need to call them to get wire instructions. Don't take email wire instructions, give them all the pitfalls. At the same time, get their lender going, because the lender can't do anything until I move and I get them their documentation. They need to know who the escrow officer is, the title officer, who the seller is, who the seller's agent is. And I got to get all that over to them so they can get it into their system and Debbie can take the loan and run. And then from there, she's got the buyer going on different things. I'm calling her, making sure that the buyers get their disclosures, lending disclosures signed, because I know without that, she can't get the appraisal ordered. I'm on an appraisal time contingency that I've got over here, so a lot of stuff is done without the buyer even knowing, because as an agent, I want to make this transaction as smooth and as simple as possible for the client. I don't want to stress them out with buying a home. So literally
No,
all
I'm going to
this,
stress them out enough with their loan.
exactly. So I really want to make sure that when I call them, it's like, hey, buyer, here's your escrow company. I'm going to send you an email with their name and their phone number and their address. I need you to contact them. You need to get them either a wire, a check, or a cashier's check of the deposit, and that needs to be in within 72 hours of acceptance. Today starts, so I really need you to have that in by Friday, please. Is there a problem with that? And buyers can say yes or no, or I'm out of town, I can't get to the bank, I can't this, what have you. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, I got to do this and I got to do that and I got to, and that doesn't happen. So basically, my first goal is to get everything opened with everybody, get that buyer's deposit in, and that's within the first, I would say, day or two, because we also have to set up home inspections. So I will generally give the buyer a list of inspectors that clients of mine have used in the past. I don't recommend anybody. I will tell them, go on Yelp, ask friends. You can use whoever you want. Home inspectors don't have to be contractors, blah, blah, blah. Give them all information. Tell them, you set it up and you tell me a time and a date and I will be there. And if you heard me, what that means is I will cancel everything that I have going at that time to make sure I make your home inspection so that you make your home inspection contingency. Now, I will tell you, I already have an inspection on Monday at 5. So if you can avoid that time, but generally get them going. They set their home inspection. I just tell them, tell me who and where. At that point, I'm coordinating with the listing agent. Okay, I need all my disclosures. And I'm not kidding you. These disclosures nowadays are at least 100 pages, at least.
Yeah, they're long.
They're long. So now the listing agent's going to give me the disclosures. Escrow is going to send me a property report. They're going to send me the title. They're going to send me the escrow instructions. I'm scanning through every single page, which takes hours, to make sure every T is dotted, every I is crossed. If the seller missed a signature on a disclosure, I got to send it back. It's not executed, can't give it to my buyer. So I got to give it back to them. Once I meet with the client, I go over everything in person, and it can take an hour, 2 or 3. It just depends on how fast they want to go over it. It depends on what they disclose with the property. I try to do it at the home inspection while the home inspector's there so that we can ask them, hey, what do you think? Sometimes it doesn't happen that way. So sometimes it's over the phone. It's a very long phone call. More than happy to do it. Sometimes it's meeting at the office. It's whatever the client's schedule will take. A lot of times it's after hours. Can go till 9, 10 o'clock at night. They got to put the baby down, whatever happens, right? Once all the disclosures are done and they're sent back, once the home inspection's done, we get a report back. Then I'm going to talk with the buyer and I'm going to say, is there anything on this report that you want to have requested for repairs or maybe request a credit? And it's something that while we're at the home inspection, which can take, depending on the size of the house, anywhere from, I'd say, 2 hours. I had an agent that did an inspection the other day for 6 hours. They were telling me. So you're talking, attorney per hour. Yeah, I would say at least 2 hours. Usually it's longer. I'd say about 3 hours, because they want to make sure that they get everything done and thorough, the inspector. And then while we're there, we're going to ask them, hey, seller said that there was some sort of a leak under the kitchen. What do you see? What do you think? Does it look like it's been covered? Is it still leaking? Is it a problem? Do they get this fixed? Is this normal wear and tear? Do you have an idea how much this would cost? I mean, we're just, and buyers will say, gosh, I didn't think to ask that. Gosh, I didn't think to ask that. I think to ask it because it's all stuff that's come up before. So there's just certain things. So now if they want to go back and write a request for repairs, now I'm back at my computer on my forms. I'm putting together a list of requests for repairs. I've also done my visual disclosure. So now I'm doing that form, which can take about 20 minutes. I'm doing whatever forms the seller didn't provide us because they don't legally have to provide them. I still want to provide it to them. Maybe the property was built in 2015, so it doesn't qualify lead-based paint 1978, but I still want to give it to them to let them know, hey, you guys can do this inspection if you want. Talk with them. Are there any other inspections you need? Maybe the home inspector said, I would really have the roof looked at. I would really have, the plumbing looked at. Okay, now we're doing a roof inspection. We're going back over. Now we're doing a plumbing inspection. We're gathering all those. Maybe we need to ask for those repairs. So it's hours upon hours upon hours between inspections, paperwork. What are we requesting? Still talking to Debbie over here about the loan. How's everything going? Where's the appraisal? Did the listing agent call? Is it set? Did they get these docs in? So it's literally all of us working as a team, nonstop during that day where that buyer is normally at work. The amount of phone calls that I handle in one day with one transaction is a lot. And
and I have news for you. I called you on day 21 and I said, hey, Heather, the appraisal didn't come in.
Oh gosh. Okay.
It came in low.
My favorite.
And the buyer doesn't have the money because, we started this conversation. He had $30,000 and he was buying $800,000. So you were going to need the seller to pay closing costs and the seller to pay part of your commission or all of your commission. And now our appraisal came in low. Mm-hmm. And the buyer doesn't have the money. So that could either, number one, now you as the real estate agent, you're going to go back and you're going to take care of that you're representing your buyer, and you are going to reopen negotiations before appraisal contingencies are closed. And you're going to say, hey, Mr. Seller, we are going to need you to bring the price of the home down because your home is not worth what the appraisal came in at. Or the other thing that could happen is that the whole deal falls apart, right? Yeah. Now, if the whole deal falls apart, everything that you guys just heard Heather rambling on about that she's done since day one of taking the phone call is all for naught.
And starts all over again.
And you start all over again. And again, I just want to drive this home, and we'll stop here because we're already in an hour. We haven't even talked about what somebody does for a seller, what the real estate agents do for their sellers when they take a listing. And we haven't even gotten to closing yet. I mean, we're not even there. I mean, we're canceling the escrow right now. They do a lot of work, and it is something absolutely that if you have done it before, you've been through the process and you feel confident in yourself, you know to call a physical inspector, you know that you've got the right to negotiate with the seller for repairs, you know that if the physical inspector says, hey, there's some mold in the closet I would be concerned about, you should probably get a mold inspection. You feel confident to go back to that seller or to the listing agent and say, I'm going to now need an extension on my contingency because I need to order now a mold report. I'm going to need an extension on my contingency because now I need to do this. If you feel confident in doing all of those things yourself because you have done this many times, absolutely have at it. Have at it. Yeah. But if you have never done this before and you don't even know what your rights are, you don't know what you can ask for, you don't know what is typical for the seller to pay for, what is typical for the buyer to pay for, then get a real estate agent. Employ a real estate agent to help you because unlike an attorney, you will not pay money if you don't close. But you are, with the new rules that are coming into place, for them to do all those things for you, you are going to sign a contract that says either I or the seller, somebody is going to pay you on behalf of my transaction. And I don't truly feel like that is a lot to ask for. Okay, so Why Not gets on, says, hello all. And he says, if you have repairs done from an appraiser, are repairs done completely, then re-inspected, or are they done to the point that the appraiser is satisfied? So Why Not? The appraiser does not do any repairs at all. An appraiser is not a physical inspector by any means. The appraiser is not going to tell you that there's certain things that do or do not have to be repaired unless they are not to the standards that his appraisal has set forth the report. So if he sees something visually that, hey, it looks like there's a leak in the ceiling, there could be a roof problem, then you are going to have to get a roof inspection and show the lender, me, your roof inspection or roof certification to show that your roof is in good shape, that ceiling stain that the appraiser noticed with his eye is nothing. There's nothing to be concerned with. So appraisers are only going to pick out things that they can that are part of the report? Were all of the appliances working at the time of inspection? Yes or no? So they try to turn on the oven, they try to turn on the AC unit. Yes, they were all working, or no, they were not. Okay, now it's going to come back to you, and you need to either go to the seller and say, hey, I need a working stove, or I can't get my loan. And then you're going to call me and say, or realtor Heather in the situation, and she's going to call me and say, okay, Deb, we were able to get that the gas turned on. Sorry, it wasn't on when the appraiser went through. It's on now, so you can send the appraiser back out to make sure that that stove is working. So the appraiser does not have anything to do with repairs at all. I do want to make sure you guys know that. Natalie did say, listening to Heather's process just made me anxious. Props to Heather. And it is absolutely true. And then Why Not says, also, does having suggested repairs done restart escrow? So no, again, the escrow period is just going to go. So let's just say that the appraiser says, hey, the AC unit was not functioning at the time of inspection and it needs to be functioning. So you now, as the buyer, have the right to go back to the seller and say, I would like you to repair the AC unit. It wasn't working when the appraiser inspected, and it is a requirement for my loan. So then the seller has the right to say, no, I'm not going to fix it. They have the right to say, okay, yeah, we agree, we'll fix it. And then once it is repaired, then they can come back to you and say, okay, it's fixed. You are going to then let your lender know, hey, you can send the appraiser back out to check it is on and it is working. But again, I want to make sure you guys understand the appraiser is not inspecting the home. The appraiser is making sure that the property's value is there for what the lender wants to lend upon, and that the property is in the state that it is supposed to be in to be a lendable property. So they are making sure that the property is lendable as far as the way that it appears, and that everything is functioning the way that it is supposed to per those lending guidelines. So your physical inspector is going to be the one that is going to tear the property apart and tell you everything that is and is not working correctly. And then based on that, you are going to have a conversation with your real estate agent about what you are going to request that the seller repair. Maybe the seller gives you a credit to repair it yourself. Maybe it brings up things like we were talking about, where you may want to call out to get a roof inspection done. You want to get a mold inspection done. You want to get a plumbing inspection done. So depending on what that physical inspector says will then determine what step you take down the road. So that the questions that you're asking are more related to your real estate agent and to your physical inspection more than your appraiser.
And I will note too, Deb, is because you're talking about, if you're a buyer that doesn't have a realtor, and you're like, so if a home inspector comes and says, oh, you have to replace this HVAC system and it's going to be about $15,000, but you made an offer on the property asking the seller to pay 3% of your closing costs, you have to be very careful, because as a seller, if you came to me as a listing agent and said, I need a new HVAC system, it's going to be $15,000. And I'm like, I don't know, let me go to the seller and ask him. I'm going to go to my seller and say, hey, look, you already gave him 3%. They can't get any more closing costs than this. So if you agree to give them $15,000 towards closing costs and not do the repair, the money that's not used towards closing costs goes right back to the seller. So you as a buyer could have just asked the seller for a credit you can't use. So it goes right back to the seller. Again, reasons to use a real estate agent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every time I hear requests for repairs, I'm like, oh gosh, maybe not,
Yeah. And there are ways to, like we were talking about it in the show last week, there are ways to actually specify things in the contract that do stay within the lending guidelines.
Right.
But it is very, very important to have that person that is, your real estate agent is calling your lender and saying, hey, we've got a problem. We need a new HVAC system. It's going to be $15,000. Should we ask the seller to replace, or should we ask for a credit? Is it something that we can get a credit and the buyer can then get it done from their own company? And so those questions are very, very important, because if you are already getting a credit and that puts you over the amount of the credit that you can get, then you don't want to be asking for something that won't be allowed by the lender and the money's going back to the seller.
Right.
So in that situation, if you want to do the work yourself, you don't want the seller to do it, and you want a credit for it, instead what we would do is we would say, seller to pay X company for the repair of, and the bill from that HVAC company gets sent to the escrow company and paid out of escrow on the seller's side of the seller's transaction, not a credit to you, the buyer, that you're paying. So it's about having the representation for yourself to make sure that you are doing things the right way to get the most that you can get out of your transaction. And that goes the same for, sellers as well, because buyers could be asking you to do things and they could be saying, well, the appraisal, is calling this out, so it has to be done, or I can't get my loan. And you don't know any better if you don't have an agent that is helping you and representing you and knows the rules. And they say, no, that's not true. You don't need to do that. So you just, again, representation, it's like, why would you not have the representation? You want it. It's just, I wouldn't go to court without an attorney next to me. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
Okay. So Why Not says, what is the difference between an appraiser and a home inspection? I have to say, I was leaning toward enlisting help from a real estate agent realtor. You now have me convinced I will be using one. So that is awesome. We like to hear that. But the difference between an appraiser, and I think I did explain that, is the appraiser is working on behalf of the lender. They are making sure that the home is worth the value that you accepted, that you wrote the contract for, that everybody agreed that you were going to buy the home for. It's making sure that for the lender giving you the loan, that the home is valued at that, and that the property is in a physical state that is lendable. So obviously it can't be a tear down and falling apart. There are guidelines and standards that are required that a home be in a certain physical condition in order for lending to be obtained on that property. So the appraiser is working for the bank. The physical inspector is working for you. They're making sure that the property is in good shape and that there is nothing that you need to worry about once you get the keys in your hand to that property. So great question though. I love it. And I like that you guys get interactive, and we love it when you do. I know we're over an hour at this point. We haven't even closed the transaction with what a real estate agent's doing. We haven't talked about what an agent does for a seller. We haven't really gotten into their commissions and exactly how their splits work. So that was kind of my point in this show, is that it was really important for people to understand how they get paid. If you think you sign a contract with a buyer's agent now, which you probably wouldn't have done before, or you sign a contract with a listing agent to sell your home, that number that you see, that total commission amount, unless they are a broker and the broker of the company, they are not actually getting 100% of the money that you see. There's usually a split that is going to their broker. There are fees that are being paid to other people sometimes. So as Heather mentioned, if you have a full-time assistant, the assistant is going to get paid a certain amount. Sometimes the referral came to you from another real estate agent, so you are going to pay a referral fee. Sometimes they do need to take a vacation and go out of town while they're in the middle of your transaction. And for that, they're going to offer to another real estate agent to watch their desk so that they are not waking up in Hawaii and working for 6 hours before they hit the beach. And so for that, they may pay out money. So these are things that you're not seeing that are happening. And then on top of that, all of the time, all of the energy, all of the tires, all of the oil changes, all of the car payments, all of the cell phone payments, the computers, the subscriptions that they needed for the contracts, the access to the MLS to pull the properties that you looked at, the insurances that they needed to do that for you. They've got E&O insurance. They've got hire car insurance, the DocuSign to get you to sign all of these 100 pages worth of disclosures that you'll need to sign throughout the transaction. And I'm sure that I've missed 100 more things that they pay for. And for sellers, they've got signs that they're paying for to put in the yard. They're paying a company to put the sign up. They're paying a company to take the sign down. They're paying a company mileage to transport it. They're paying for storage for the sign when it's not up on somebody's house. There are so many things that these poor real estate agents are paying that you guys are just seeing this number and you're like, oh my God. Oh my God. Right. And really it's not, oh my God. At the end of the day, if you're in a job and you are making $80,000 a year, you're probably making more than them. Their gross might look bigger because, as Heather said, they're not a W-2 employee. They are a 1099. So they still have to withhold their own taxes out of the money that they earn. And then they have to buy their own medical insurance. And they've, and so these aren't things that are necessarily your problem, but it's an understanding that I think that is important for people to know that, they're not just out there just living it up. I mean, they're working for it. They are salespeople and they are working for it, and they are representing you, and they are not getting paid the way that an attorney does, because quite honestly, it does not take the time in college that an attorney takes to become an attorney and charge you per hour for their services. And you know what? Personally, in my opinion, they're doing a way better bang up job for you than any attorney would. And I'm not saying that to be mean or facetious. I think attorneys have their street, their road, their map. They have their spot that they belong. And I think that within a real estate transaction, unless something comes up that requires an attorney's expertise, they're not out showing you the properties. They're not talking to you about what you should be writing it for and how much is the house worth and what price should you be writing on it. And they're not calling the other real estate agent on the other side and trying to help you guys to get it negotiated, to put it together for you to get your dream home that you want. They're not going to do all of that unless they charge you a lot of money. So that's my opinion. Take of it what you will. I might have, like I said, I've probably upset somebody today. I'm sure. Probably absolutely upset somebody, and I'll get some lashback, but that is the honest truth. And I'm not a real estate agent. I've been in their shoes. I've done it. But this is an outside third party opinion, being in the industry, dealing with the real estate agents every day on a transaction. This is my honest third party outsider looking in. I think you guys do a great job, Heather. And I think anybody that doesn't want to work with a real estate agent is silly.
It's funny, my biggest thing is whenever anybody says, why should I work with an agent? My easiest comeback is, if you were buying a new home and that new home builder worked with realtors and you didn't ask, you just lost representation. That new home builder, their agent is theirs. They work for them. I bought a new home years ago and I went in and I said, what are you offering for concessions? And they were like, well, we'll give you $30,000 towards upgrades. And took it. They paid me a commission, everything, and went on my merry way. My neighbor came to me afterwards and I told him, they're like, oh, how much did you pay for your upgrades? And I said, well, I didn't. The builder gave me $30,000. How'd you get that? And I'm like, I asked for it, and that's the thing is, as a realtor, we put the time in and the effort in to know what to ask for. And when we get a certain response back, how to respond to that response. Just like any person in biotech or whether you're serving fast food, whether you're in biotech or medical or lawyer, loans, whatever it is, you're doing your job well enough that when somebody says something to you, how you respond. And it's the same thing for realtors. We just don't go open house and say, oh, hey, what do you think about this one? Oh, it's wonderful. Perfect. Write an offer. Okay, here you go. See you later. Give me my $50,000 check. Doesn't happen like that at all. We are not selling Sunset. We are not, Magnolia Home where everything is beautiful. Every person's an individual, and we really want to work with you as an individual and get you the right home. And we don't mind taking that time away as long as you understand and appreciate that that's what we're doing, is we're giving you our time to help you buy that home and find that home and get you the best deal that, we can get you. And whether that's, on price, on, inspections, what have you. And we're there all the way. And I really believe my job is to make your home buying process as easy and as smooth as possible. And hopefully it's the first home you write an offer on, but chances are it's going to be more like the third or fourth home, just with the limited inventory and the amount of, offers that are out there right now.
Yep. So Why Not did say you just need to do a third show on this. That's all. Because we are already over an hour. We can't keep going. I know people are probably like,
I know, right?
Shut up now. And then
that's how much we do.
I know.
Just talking about it.
Yeah. So I hope that you guys did enjoy today's show. I hope we kind of drove that point down, the path of how important that it is to have that representation. I really do believe that, again, like I started the show, real estate agents have gotten a really bad rap. People have just really been knocking it out of the park with how negative that they've been recently and how you don't need them. You guys, you do need them. And it is the best thing that you could possibly do is to employ a real estate agent to help you with your transaction, especially if you are a first time buyer and you have never done it. So with that, we're going to sign off. We're back. We are here every single Wednesday at 1 o'clock, 1 p.m. Pacific time. So make sure that you do text the word live to 844-935-3634. That's 844 We Lend for You. WELEND and the number 4. Call my office, get your consultation, go to my website, mortgagemomradio.com. If you need me or anybody on my team, we are here to help. We will walk you through the process step by step, and we'll make sure that you guys get everything that you need for your transaction. So I hope you guys all have a good one, and we'll be back next week. We'll talk to y'all real soon. Bye-bye. Thank you, Heather. Thank you.
No problem. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Debbie Marcoux is licensed by the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act, NMLS ID 237926. Also licensed in Arizona 0941504, Florida L076508, Georgia 69178, Idaho MLO 208023796, Illinois 031.0058339, Missouri, North Carolina I210940, Nevada 57237, Oregon, Tennessee 184373, Texas, Washington MLO 237926.
She's the mortgage mom. She can get things done when you're in need and don't know where to go. Pick up the phone and call.